Didn't start till like 6:25.
He showed up at like 10:06.
Is it working? I think so. Okay. It says it is.
Says it's working.
Yeah.
All right, good evening, everyone. This is a special call city council meeting of Tuesday, October 26, 2021, 6 p.m. in the City Hall Council Chambers. I ask the assistant clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Franke?
Yes.
Mayor Hark?
Here.
Councilmembers Bowen?
Here.
Welch?
Here.
Beach?
Present.
McCoy?
Here.
And Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Here.
Okay, there being a quorum, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Of course, this evening's meeting was called to discuss further the infrastructure planning, development, and funding. So we're here to discuss that this evening and receive input from different council members and also the members of the Board of Public Works here so we can move forward and get some decisions made without running to the feet, so to speak. So want to start off?
Sure. Looking at the board's own study, I don't know, doesn't have a page. It's page 9. It says, how would stormwater program costs be funded if voters do not approve a stormwater user fee? And their comments were stormwater program costs would have to be recovered through sewer rates. The average monthly residential sewer bill would increase $6 to $9 a month. Sewer funding of stormwater results in inequitable cost recovery. Parcels with no current utility bills impact the stormwater program, but would not contribute their fair share of cost. So in your own study, it lays out a plan if the voters didn't approve it. Now, I don't know, basically, if you can create your own utility, collect the fee for it, without a vote, and James isn't here. But this is what your own engineering, firm said that could happen if the vote came in negative.
I don't want to speak for James since he's not here, but I have a recollection of him saying that that's no longer an option. Something to do with the Supreme Court. Does anybody else have that recollection?
I do.
End of that page 9, funding the storm and sewer utility rates would result.
A few weeks ago, we had a really good discussion. I thought it was really lively. Melissa and I kind of got in the zone there a little bit, and I learned a lot. I thought it was productive, and I learned a lot. On the walk home, I was thinking to myself, "Oh crap! We've got two problems, 2 different solutions, and the solution for each one does not solve the other. And if we ignore one of the problems, it doesn't go away." That's kind of how we ended up in this place in the first place, is because we've been constrained. One of the problems is our sidewalks and our alleyways and our other infrastructure, and they desperately need our attention. Sales tax cannot be legally dedicated to stormwater, and I think that's a good thing, because then those tax dollars can be used on alleyways and other infrastructure and streets, et cetera, and we need to do that. On the other hand, we have a stormwater system that Burns and McDonald said in 2005, 16 years ago, represented at least $50 million in liability. That was a report done for the city. And my understanding of that report is that it was very rudimentary. It was not in depth. And so it's safe to say that in the 16 years since then, and keeping in mind the scope of the project, that the liabilities for the stormwater system are much higher than $50 million. And in the long term, next 200 years, the only way to solve that is with a dedicated funding source. So I have a crazy idea. Might not think it's a good idea, but I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. So I suggest we do both. Sincerely, let's go do both.
I agree.
Let's put a sales tax on the April ballot dedicated capital improvement sales tax on the April ballot. And then, in the meantime, we can direct the good folks at the utility to start work on preparing a stormwater utility ballot for November. Ignoring one problem does not make the other one go away, and neither plan is a solution to both. If one of those fails, so be it. We have to be better at explaining our needs. We can go try again and again and again and again. I would rather, personally, strike out swinging and waiting for the perfect opportunity. So that's what I got. Thanks for indulging.
The only one saying we can't try both. They're the only one telling ourselves that we can't.
I think that's actually a pretty good idea. Because I think rushing a stormwater utility, like I said before, would be a really bad idea. We want to make sure that we get our ducks in a row. We got to get everything in place, have a funding system, and everything else. But like you said, our infrastructure, our sidewalks, our alleyways, our curbs, whether they exist or not, they need work. And tackling both issues at the same time puts a larger stress on every single person making the decision. That's all of us, all of us. So I think it's a great idea to try both of those. And the fact that we're not dedicating anything to stormwater at this point is actually means that we can actually put it towards our other capital improvements.
I guess I'm of the mindset that I wouldn't delay putting the stormwater on the ballot because it was my understanding that it'd have to be through a property tax. And if you're looking at a property tax, you're probably 3 years away from getting money. And, you know, the stormwater utility already owes the electric fund over $1 million. To me, it's something that can't be put off 3 years. I think, you know, Matt did a good job of promoting it. You know, the first time lost by a few votes. I feel as though the public's has a perception, and it was positive enough to lose by just a few votes. And if, you know, some people went out and did some work, maybe knocked on a few doors, got the information out, that, you know, be successful this time. I just don't think you can wait.
Yes, sir.
Does have raise the property tax out of
No.
all property taxes?
Hancock.
So that's really a subset of the tax that you're talking about. Mentioned it would be billed property tax.
I'm the one who kind of bungled this. I said it would have to be collected via the property tax, but it wouldn't necessarily have to. Even on the property tax, it would be billed as a fee. So there is an option there. You could collect it on your own utility bills, or you could collect it on property tax through Marion County.
Would it be a line item? Line item?
They could put it on there as such. Back. The biggest thing in counties is they want to have all the information during August. Timely manner. So if you did something past April, likely be able to get on next year's tax bill.
plan for our infrastructure. In other words, what's our terminal objective project, what those costs are, then you
And you'd have the ability to bond too, then.
That's,
but it really is getting it on the property tax. Now, I think that's consensus here,
What's inadequate?
sales tax.
The amount of property tax it would take to increase to be the same amount of sales tax of half cent would be 300 or 400%. I mean, you would have to quadruple your sales tax or your property tax, and that's not gonna pass.
It's deferred maintenance.
I understand, but half cent sales tax is much easier a pill for a citizen to swallow than quadrupling their property tax.
So why,
I mean, that's what it would take. I mean, 10% of property tax is not going to do it the same amount.
So the charter states that the board has the power to set rates for the stormwater utility. Why does that have to go to voting?
Missouri Supreme Court.
They said you couldn't do impervious services. They didn't say
No. They said, sorry, not to get out of my chair here a little bit. The Missouri Supreme Court said we could not create a fee without a vote. They said we can do impervious, but it has to go through a vote. And I want to clear up something from Mike earlier. And kind of funny that I'm sitting here arguing against the urgentness of the stormwater system. I like the tax going first in April, mostly because it is smaller revenue-wise. It might be more palatable and has been discussed. It can provide emergency funding to fix some of our projects like North Street. And the reason why I'm okay with the stormwater getting that November slot instead of the April one is because as soon as a dedicated fee is approved by the voters, we can start borrowing against it next day, or as soon as council certifies the election. But so there wouldn't be a big revenue gap. Am I right on that, Paul?
What is the time period set up? Go to counties, they need to have I don't know. Prior to bill every property tax, property tax, county property, property. So it's not be if we put it on the ballot, to be feasible bill. Now, mechanism is keep flat rate something of that nature. Complex where everybody's area tax. That would take more that time.
I'm opposed to a full property tax amount. I don't care how we go about getting the fee of the stormwater in November or whichever, but I just don't think that's a good idea to be lumped in at the end, in a year. But if you could get it monthly, I think that's better in my mind. Because citizens could actually plan for that instead of get slammed with $150 at the end of the year or something. That's just mine.
What about April sales tax and November stormwater?
Yeah, we veered off to November. That's why I said that.
I'm just trying to veer it back.
Yeah. No, I'm totally on board with April for sales tax and push for a November stormwater fee or utility bill or however we do it. Yeah. Sounds great.
And it also may, like someone was telling me a while ago, you'd want to be real careful not to have the language confusing, because then you're up for a challenge as well. And you have two similar things on at the same time, it may confuse the voter as well and cause a false approval or a false failure. So.
I don't. However, still, if that's the problem. I think
I agree with you. And I agree with you. The most people, unless it has touched them, they're not well versed in it. Unless you really actually had a problem with the property or had a failure in front of your property and took out your street for a year, it doesn't matter. That's just the way it is. Kind of the same way with crime. No one really worries about the small break-ins on vehicles until their vehicle gets broke into, and it's a real serious matter. So I couldn't agree with you more. Yes, sir.
How do you, how, does, in other words, running for city council, vision have the information that how does this decide that
From a sales tax perspective, I can't speak to that. Mostly because I can't speak for these people. From a stormwater perspective, I can speak to that because that's laid out in that's laid out in the Black and Beach report. So after we failed in 2019, our main takeaway was we didn't have enough information. We couldn't answer some of the questions. So we went back to Black and Beach and we said, hey, help us answer some of these questions. And what they did, they came up with a 9-step process for doing just that. And the 9th step in that process was creating something called a stormwater advocacy group. That would be made up of theoretically 15 or 16 people, I believe. City council person, board member, staff member from the city, staff member from utility, and filled with prominent and average citizens alike. Those people would be educated on the process and the specifics, and they would grow into people who are in the streets. Or, when they go to lunch or they go to work, it's a question that might be ill-informed. They can help the information process. And the neat thing about that is the EPA lists it as a best practice for water education and advocacy. And I think it's a good idea to involve as many as possible.
really boils down to some method of what starting up issue out primary advocate. Volunteers end up in volunteer. I'm not gonna answer questions. Councilman. Both groups able to do that
I agree, and sometimes I'm super cynical, sometimes I'm super optimistic. In this regard, I genuinely believe if somebody's willing to give 5 minutes of their time, you can probably educate them and help them learn in a way, and probably learn yourself in the process, that these are our needs and how we solve them.
Sales.
Yeah, so I can't speak to a sales tax education plan because brand new is happening right now. I can only speak to a stormwater advocacy plan because it was laid out in the Black and Beach report, EPA best practice. I just haven't.
I think that since 0.5% of sales sounds like I agree with that. Say 3% extra.
On property tax. Well, what were you saying? Oh yeah, property tax, we'd have to raise it sky high to be the same, yeah.
And then, since things like bonding, I think
Yeah, I agree, and I'm really glad you brought that up because my personal opinion is that if we start selling sales tax as a stormwater solution, it's kind of disingenuous, but at the same time, it dilutes any November effort for a dedicated fee. And at the same time, we have enough alleys and streets and other stuff we can talk about to sell the sales tax on its own. At least in the third ward, alleyways suck.
You take a lot of pictures of that. You can't take pictures of the storm sewer.
Yeah, exactly. So why dilute them?
I think we're going the right way. So as I've sat in here, I'm not emotionally involved in this just yet. I am a little bit. It's great to hear the idea of having those two taxes to split that. Great idea. So as you counsel brains and these brains here, that's fantastic. The thought of how we actually collect the stormwater, how we do that, kind of got two sides. The complexity you get into, how difficult it is to explain, etc. Simple. Property, John's already done that. Very elegant way fixing the situation. We take and try and do the yes, that take us a year or so. So I think there's some balance in it. We've got to work on our side. If we take and say, you guys handle the tax structure, fantastic. You guys are professional at that. You're saying, all right, let us come up with a solution for that storm. Let us handle that. We can come together again and then help you educate us, educate the storm. That way, we are definitely on the same page, and then all of it we got to still by James, because we've got to make sure we're out educating. We've got to make sure that we're stepping this question, so we can show them the, I call 30 pictures of the 30 drains that aren't working right. Show them the dirty alleys. Let them see what's going on. Pictures sell a whole lot of things. Communicate it clearly. Success. So that's what I see as moving action item. So,
The main thing that you have to be worried about is staff involvement. the council, the board, they're not getting paid in such a way that the ethics commission can tell them they can't do it. Individual citizens can do what they want. Obviously, citizens can ask via sunshine request, if nothing else, for information. The biggest way to run afoul of the ethics commission is to delegate any of these chores to staff, because even if they do it off hours, you run the risk that they'll go, oh, well, but they were really getting paid for it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I made pretty clear I don't have a lot of respect for the ethics commission. I don't think they follow the statutes. I don't think they follow their own rules. But they do have the power to drag you down to Jeff City and have an administrative hearing. So
But if I have someone who's asked for sunshine information, I have the ability to have staff put that
pursuant to the sunshine law, you absolutely have to. You're obligated to give that.
and I would charge them for that.
Yeah.
James, you can't put it together. Let's make that clear, because you produce documents for sunshine.
I'm
You
answering
don't.
You
don't have to
sunshine
answer.
law does not require you to create a document. That is correct. However, if someone says, I would like to see pictures of what's going on, I would like to see, documents which you have, if you have cost estimates on things, et cetera, et cetera. These are all things which the board, in particular regarding storm sewer, is preparing and has, and they can release those things to any taxpayer. I mean, it doesn't have to be just council members or board members or even members of of the theoretical group. I mean, anybody can come and ask for that information at any time, and we're obligated within the guidelines of the sunshine law to release that.
If you get a question that are asked,
Well, that wouldn't be an appropriate sunshine request. Sunshine request is provide me, pardon me?
he hasn't been long enough.
Oh,
Necessarily.
well, but it would be provide me with documentation. You can request information and documentation if it is stuff that we have available. Pursuant to the Missouri Sunshine Law, you should try to give that to the public. The public cannot require you to do some type of interrogatory where they say, if this happened, what then? And if this happened, what then? That's not the way the Sunshine Law works.
Can we concentrate on stormwater? Which are kind of pros and cons about certain. But what this thing that I put together is a pro and con list that shows collecting impervious fees versus collecting base acreage fees and weeds, how it comes up. On the left side, you have pros and cons for an idea that I've given. On the right side, pros and cons for the impervious calculation. So, supposing that the county collector collects this tax as the city, if we were to eliminate the cost of impervious, which is obviously free house driveway, you have to do grass is just wanted to bring to light complexity. So if we look on the right side about that versus right, I want to start on the far right. If that were to be implemented system, it would take 12 months after we said have it. So that would be the satellite. This isn't Matthew's and everybody else's. There was an estimate of around $17,000 flyover next system probably add $1,000 charge that have that's just the mechanics. The rest of the 5 items have additional administrative. You're going to have termination policies to see who's involved. If it's an exempt church, are they going to be exempt? All the policies, the application. Next one, I have want to appeal. Say, well, I don't have that. Say, I do. My measurement says this work. Would they go to somebody? Next, first from the bottom is bills to service. There are a number of them that don't have service. County does. Then, for implement this, we have a massive county billing system, not only this, but continual, ongoing basis, maintain accuracy, minimize. Then also patient of somebody sells a piece of property, subdivides something, adds a track of that. Last one, adding a garage. We have the give you fit into the BPW billing system. Positives about the impervious fee is out somebody's driveway that appears to be on the process of rain coming. When you rubber hits the road, heavy rains are extreme max to 1 degree out. The other thing is the revenue monthly. Next item are churches and nonprofits. If every landowner is the same, except churches, collector amounts to around 8 parcels. Be exempted from tax. Question is, if it were added onto your third, be able to add that. Question. Versus tax. Thing is, have a leverage to be built. Collect that fee. Water. Those are about the impervious fee. But on the left side is kind of a new idea to me anyway. Just take the basic. Build county collector, city. A lot of that is already there. They track it. Have to be a second database associated with the database that needs to be separate. All this work on file. GIS they land sales, changeable, tracked, ready by assessor. Last item is kind of having to track change. Adding highway.
The only bad parts that I see, gotta pay for something. 1 to 2% county. I don't exactly county city small. The other thing would be the initial setup, determine rate structure. And then administrative. Because the changes, none of that. Square footage on. Another possible downside is parking. Be added onto. They pass it along. So 500, they're not going to pay 500. It'll just be absorbed eventually. And I just put that as change the thought process from basic. Lots of things. Impervious thing. I read the studies and those kind of things. I just think try to get towards box and later on. Anyway, I think it would be easier. I like easy.
I appreciate you taking the time to do this, because as somebody who sat through tons and tons of Black and Beach presentations, there's a lot of new information in here for me. A lot of new information. It's making me think some things. But that being said, my personal thing is, the city has some alleyways to focus on. We have some roads to focus on, and I would like, personally, again, city council to focus on the best way to develop a sales tax that will work for us, while giving you guys the authority and the directive confidence from us to go and figure this out the way that you think it's back to us, update us, of course, and then, together get it done.
Question, have you talked to the county collector to see what kind of assessed valuation the city has overall, to see what kind of a percentage of increase in property, real and personal, that would have to be,
Assess valuation. I got Matthew subdivided size, small city. All that.
I'm confused then on that, because the county doesn't assess by acreage. They assess by property values.
I wouldn't be talking about assessing it. They have data. Their software. Calculate. I'm talking about valuation. Square footage is part. Dedicated store. Ask the voters. $10 times 10. That will be
Interesting.
Okay. So, because well, Black and Beach said, you generate $6 to $9 a month on the impervious fee. So your goal would be to collect like $120 a year on the average lot. Is that accurate?
I did some spreadsheet experiments today, and this is just totally off. Generate that fee square, except the city handle. There order of dollars added to that. I purposely didn't bring the spreadsheet. So, broad stroke is somebody who owns a regular lot in the city of Russell paying dollars times 12. That much on the bill. Downside is it gets collected here. Actually, December. Most of it December. Things grab it.
Sure.
The answer to your question, minus a few dollars is around a month.
So what did you project that to bring in on an annual basis for the stormwater utility?
$1 million.
Million two? Okay.
And I don't have exact each information, but I think you mentioned
3.5. 3.5. 3.5 million.
lots, the number of the city, 1,000. That's about the same amount. So their calculation get to 3 million. Have 25 to
That's Melissa.
They got the difference. You had bigger losses areas.
Yeah, it was exponential more concrete you had. Yeah, Walmart would be paying way more than my $30, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Clover Road Christian Church would be paying about the same 75.
Yeah, an example from the Black and Deep report listed an average commercial property at, I think, $1 a month, an average fine. That's average taking Mark Twain Dinette and averaging that with general. So I'm not saying Mark Twain Dinette would be paying, that'd be the.
That's on the impervious.
Yeah.
Right. So, to your point, on this base acreage fee, would you tax or fee General Mills and all the commercial churches, properties, businesses, or just residential? On your plan, what you come up with?
At the square, same square. I'm just afraid of the complexity. This thing. You know, huge burden on bigger places. Top coat sitting there. It's simple to get satellite maps that are sitting there calculating this work. Just questions of administration. It's easy to explain if you say 1,000 square in your plot. Minus the stuff.
Have you looked at assessed valuations and going that route? To me, that would be more fair. You know, if you're looking at a 1% raise for like me, 1% raise in my property taxes on real and personal property would increase mine about $200 a year. And I consider myself to be average.
I guess you could do it that way. I was the idea of just gross bare square foot subject to raindrops fall down. The square foot. It's a whole different evaluation. And again, I don't have a background in this. I don't know if this is fly, but is a simple citizen.
I think, like Melissa said, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. And I certainly don't think that work can be done tonight, or maybe it should be done tonight. I appreciate the education. I can't.
Did the spreadsheets?
Oh yeah, no, it's helpful. It's opened my eyes. But I mean, at least in my personal opinion, I think the goal tonight would be to just, if we're in agreement on an overall plan here, would be the city to focus on our sales tax and developing what we want that to look like, and then giving you folks the directive to go and create a utility based on what you guys like. And then, update throughout.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. We all know what direction we're going and what we need to do at this point.
Need to say that's stuff.
So
I guess with that, a couple comments first. First of all, we're losing a key person out of City Hall that's taking a job that is going to pay her $20,000 more than what she's getting at City Hall. To me, that makes a statement about salaries. Our own city manager, she could go elsewhere and make far more than what she's making now. That doesn't take into consideration about, the windows that need replaced at City Hall, the neighborhoods that need to be taken care of, the alleyways, some of the infrastructure, some of the derelict buildings. Those are all in need that we don't have the money for. So with that, I'd make the motion to authorize a half-cent sales tax to be put on the April ballot. And language to be determined so that we can basically make it easy to understand for John Q. Public.
with the caveat of language to be determined at the next council meeting. I would say.
Sure.
So there's a motion and a second. Why not?
Appreciate it.
Oh, Mr. Craig, can you come up here so she can't hear you? And we're going to
First question I have is, does the city not have, at this time, a half-cent sales tax for roads? Road improvements, repaving, etc.
Yes, there is.
So that's a dedicated fund. Now we're going to add another half-cent sales tax, take care of alleys and roads and stuff. So now we're up to 1%.
If the voters approve.
If the voters approve it. See, we haven't said that.
And we're talking about going to April for a vote.
For a vote.
For you to go to the ballot. And
I understand that.
Decide.
But there is already a half-cent sales tax on the books
Correct.
being collected for city streets.
Right. That we use up every year to the best of our ability.
Does it have a sunset?
Not that I know of. No.
No.
So it's for infinity.
Correct.
You haven't talked about this one, whether it has a sunset. So this is another half-cent sales tax without a sunset. And half and a half, if my math in the first grade is correct, no, it's actually the third grade, is 1%.
You're correct.
And you have, in this discussion, you haven't mentioned that.
We
The
did say
voters will need to know
discuss
that.
next meeting. That's what we did say. And part of the motion is to finalize what will be on the April next meeting. This is just to move forward with the sales tax.
There was discussion on sunsetting.
I'm sorry, sir.
There was discussion on
Right.
sunsetting.
And I'd like to amend my motion to put a sunset on it of 7 years.
This is also covers above ground stormwater.
This is above ground stuff. This isn't storm water.
The portion that the city's responsible,
Right.
which is what? The inlets?
This tax, my understanding of what the council has discussed, is this tax would be for capital improvements.
Capital
So
improvements,
that
not
means
necessarily.
anything.
Not necessarily.
All that's
It's-
mentioned is alleys and sidewalks.
I understand, and that's
For
that's
examples.
why I wanted to say something
All
was,
of a sudden,
it was,
things have come up about windows at
it-
City Hall and stuff like that.
my understanding of how this discussion originally came up 2 meetings ago was a discussion of the possibility of a capital improvement tax with a sunset. Was it possible? Is it something that would happen, et cetera, et cetera? And then there was discussion of, what are you going to use it for? Are you going to use it for sewers? Are you going to use it for roads? Are you going to use it for stoplights? What are you going to use it for? And the answer, I believe, was yes. So, I think that's how it came about. And then the reason why the council asked the board to meet with them the first time and then this time was the fact of, well, wait a minute, we've got an issue with storm sewer, and we need to talk about all of these issues and try to put it all together. So the intent of the meeting tonight, my understanding, was to have a further discussion regarding what is appropriate, what are the voters likely to approve, what does the city need, what does the board need, because the thing to always remember is ultimately every structure inside the city limits belongs to the city. It doesn't belong to the board. The board manages it for the city and does an excellent job, but ultimately it's going to be the city's responsibility. It's their ultimate responsibility.
Early on in the discussion, I thought I heard Mr. Frankie say that a half-cent sales tax cannot be used to support the funding of stormwater improvement for the.
It cannot be dedicated as an exclusive use for stormwater funding per revised Missouri statute. James might know.
Boy, you've got a lot of confidence in me, Stephen.
But the way it works is, per Missouri statutes, you can dedicate up to a half cent to parks and or stormwater. Not both.
To what?
To parks and or stormwater, but not both. And we've already maxed out the parks part.
I understand. Okay.
So
Understand.
thanks for giving me the chance to clarify.
And Larry, thanks for reminding me about the sunset, because we talked about sunsets before. That way, the voters, if we choose 5 years, 7 years, or whatever, if we're doing a good job with their money, we can go back and ask to renew that, for another 5 years or whatever. So thank you for bringing that up.
Well, and look, some of you may remember I sat right where the clerk is for 2.5 years back in the early 90s. And because I was on the council, this problem is partly my problem, because it was never brought up as an issue, stormwater. We in Hannibal have ignored our stormwater for years. And I know that the council feels like a portion of it is their responsibility and a portion of it is the board's responsibility. And that's very confusing. I can sure it's confusing for them, it's confusing for you, and then, if a street collapses, okay, the board fixes the stormwater and the city fixes the street. I assume it's probably the way it goes. So we've got a real challenge before us. You guys, all of you have got a challenge before you to make Hannibal, to fix a problem that's been lingering around for 100 years. It's going to be expensive. promotion, education. My understanding, yeah, you all can't, you can put it on the ballot, but you can't lobby the folks. What has to happen, my understanding, and Lisa can, or James can clarify it, what would have to happen is for both issues, when you put it on a ballot, to educate the public, you're going to have to get volunteers to sit on a committee, a campaign committee, raise money to produce education material that goes out to the voters, and then we won't have 12 votes short of something.
Sir, would you like the first spot on this committee?
Pardon me?
Would you like the first spot on this committee?
I will consider it. It depends on who else is involved in it. But, my experience is anything that's on the ballot that's put on by the government or somebody else, the statutes limit what you can do to convince the voters to approve it. But if you, as a citizen, you could step off of that podium and volunteer your time to help educate the public and help raise funds by a separate committee to promote your issues. And that's what you've got to do. And that, ladies and gentlemen, has not happened the first time you put a fee on the ballot or when you put a sales tax on the ballot. And people didn't understand what they were voting for. When they don't understand what they're voting for and they have questions, they vote no. That's what they've been. I've taken up enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion?
Can we repeat the motion just for clarification?
I'm going to revise to put a utility, or rather an infrastructure half-cent sales tax on the April ballot with a sunset. 5 years,
Capital.
7 years.
Capital
improvements. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
With a sunset of 5 years.
I mean, I would be most comfortable if we discussed this in and of itself at a separate council.
April, or Angel's not here. When does this have to?
It's coming up.
January 25th it has to be approved and sent to the county. That's the last day to
Okay.
get it on the April
Then we've
ballot.
got plenty of time to discuss.
Well, not plenty.
Yeah, the issue with discussion
Good
is
time.
we keep discussing and we never form the committees and such to figure, to door knock. If we wait until middle of December to decide, next meeting might be okay, but at the same time, we need to decide now so we can keep moving.
Well, could I suggest, sure, Mayor Pro Tem, what if you amended your motion a little bit more to suggest that what we do is start working on some potential ballot language that would allow you to have something to be looking at, something that you can release to the public, have a discussion about it at the next meeting. If it needs to be tweaked, it can be tweaked. You could then, possibly it would be perfect and you'd vote for it next meeting, but also that would give you some time to allow the public to see it, you all to talk about it, needs to be changed, then voted on it the meeting after. And maybe we did it that way.
Okay. Okay, so the motion would be to draft a ballot language, and I guess Lisa and James could work on that?
And your motion proposed for James to go ahead and present that at the next council meeting.
Correct.
I can put something.
There's a
together.
second.
I'd be pretty-
Any other discussion?
You got enough time to do that? That's next week.
Yeah, I mean.
It's
we have to
my
have it by
my
Thursday.
deadline is Thursday and it's only Tuesday night. Seriously though, look, I've done several ballot initiatives recently. It gives us an opportunity. I understand Councilman Dobson's intent. I believe I can put some proposed language together. It may not be perfect, but quite frankly, even if I thought it was perfect, The council may not be satisfied anyway, so I will have something that you guys can look at. I'll meet the Thursday deadline. I'm just not promising it'll be pretty.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Go ahead.
Oh, then I was gonna go ahead and make a motion that we give the utility a clear and direct goal of creating a stormwater utility ballot language with a dedicated funding source ready for November of 2020.
Second.
Yes, sir. We can't do it this year. Yeah.
There's a motion. Sorry. Motion is second. Any discussion?
I'd just like to, I guess, ask the board if you think something could be done sooner to have it, ready for the April ballot.
We don't want to do them both together anyway.
And Melissa even said, I mean, if you have a sales tax and you have the stormwater, you're going to split the people up. Even if you completely spell it all out, it could potentially ruin
And if the capital
both.
budget passes, some of that money could be used before.
So you go to November of 2022.
Correct.
And you get an affirmative vote, then you wouldn't see money for.
But if we know that it's
for about
coming, we
another
can
12 to
bond it
14
immediately.
months.
We can borrow it immediately.
Immediately, yeah.
Okay.
So we would know by December or January of 22, 23 to bond against it, correct?
And
Yeah.
even borrow it.
Or borrow against it, sorry.
And without sounding like a smart aleck, I'm not trying to be that way at all, but like Mr. Craig pointed out, only been sitting on it 50 years. Let's be sure we do it right, and that we do it in a manner that your public has confidence that you're going to carry out what you say you're going to do. And I'm by no means am I saying that anyone here is not 100% vested in this project, but come on, this is Missouri. You got to show me, right? So we have to show that we will do what we say we're going to do, and we got to gain their confidence to do so.
What was the
Did your motion get
language you
seconded?
made on that motion?
Alan did.
I'm sorry.
What was the language you made on the motion?
You want to read it back, or do you want me to try to come up with it again?
I didn't get it all.
Okay.
You talk too fast.
Give the utility a clear directive and goal to come up with structure and language for a November 2022 ballot for a stormwater utility, a dedicated.
Second.
We're clear.
Is that something the board feels comfortable with this time?
I believe so. August ballots never turn out good. November is probably the best route to go, and I agree with everybody. April is that's just gonna make a mess of things.
Okay.
And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried.
With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Wait.
The brakes.
Speaking of passing, we also haven't had in over a decade. I commend the council for me, after me, for trying to keep up my course right. Our street department at least half staff. Our employees are underpaid. We've got so many issues that revolve around my community. I commend you guys for taking the step to listen. We've been talking about stormwater since I got involved. I'm so proud that something finally been accomplished. We all know, well, not, but a lot of us, how happy I am to hear that asset sales tax is going towards infrastructure. I live in third ward. I have an issue in my ward that I have a lot of hope now that I had absolutely no hope an hour ago. So I commend you guys. I'm really proud of you. I both ways.
That's a rough street.
With no sidewalks.
I think it can be done. I would like, this was said on for years. I said on the council, and it was said on any that on it was brainchild of people that like listen. I really commend Andy loves this help like everything. And it was a few people that whether it hurts, and especially the council, whether it hurts or not, no matter how hard we get hit, we're gonna try to go at the I am such a good step. I don't think people understand what a big step this is. Makes me emotional because desperate been ignored. Something about it. I didn't know I'd ever see it. So I'm really proud of you.
We're all in it together. I mean, the council, you, and the citizens. I mean, it's, when you talk about, and I think I said this last meeting, when you talk about the city, it isn't what's in these four walls of this building. The city is everyone in the city, every citizen, every person in the city. They are a part of the city. And I do believe that, like I say, Frank said that sometimes over-optimistic. I am that. I have great confidence that when presented the right information and trust, that your public will respond in a positive manner. Right.
So much that can change.
Right.
Unfortunately, I don't like it. I reside here on property in Hannibal. I work inside. I pay same as everybody else, and I don't want to do it. But I don't know how, as a citizen, I can expect my local government to run effectively. They haven't seen an increase in taxes or revenue over a decade, or in personal property tax revenue since 70. I mean, that's crazy. I commend you guys. I really am. It's been a long time coming. I didn't know. Okay.
Mayor, you got a motion and a second on the floor?
Yep.
Second. Adjourn.
To adjourn, any discussion for that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Adjourn.
Mike, thank you.
Good with that.